Good morning, Sinkers and Nevis, and welcome to Inside the News right here on Win FM 98.9. It is Saturday, February 25th, 2023. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. Let me apologize for the late start, but we're going to get the program going. Joining us on the panel today, we have out of Nevis, Mr. Hensley Daniel, a former Minister of Government in the Nevis Island Administration. He served as Deputy Premier and Minister of Health. We also have Mr. Desil Hamilton, a social commentator. Today we will be discussing parts of the 2023 budget address and estimates for the Nevis Island Administration. We will not be able to cover everything, of course, in just 2 hours. Let me state, however, that we will, this is part 1, so we'll come back next week. I'm not sure if Mr. Daniel and Desil will want to join me next week, but we'll have some of the panelists next week to do part 2 of our discussions on the 2023 budget address and estimates of the Nevis Island Administration. Good morning again, and thank you guys so much for joining the conversation. We are live on our social media platforms. You can check us out on Facebook as well as on our YouTube channel, at winmediaskn.com. Now let me check in with Mr. Daniel and Desil. They are both joining me via Zoom as they are on Nevis. Good morning. Are you guys hearing me? Mr. Daniel, are you hearing me loud and clear?
I think we might have lost Mr. Daniel there for a second.
Okay, I think he's having some connectivity issues, but we'll try to get him connected. Desil, you hearing me loud and clear?
Yes, sir.
All right, so we'll start and we'll work out the connectivity issue with Mr. Daniel very shortly. Desil, good morning, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation to join me on Inside the News for today. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Good morning to all of the listeners out there in Radio Land and joining us on the various social media feeds.
Awesome. So as I mentioned in my opening, we are here to discuss the 2023 budget address estimates of the Nevis Island Administration. The budget was officially passed earlier this week, and the total budget is in the region of $261 million. It was presented by the Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Mark Brantley, and the sitting was presided over by the President, the new President of the Nevis Island Assembly, the Honorable Michelle Slack. As I mentioned to you off air, Desil, we want to look at 3 different areas in the budget address and look at some of the allocations and the plans and policies in these various areas. We spoke about health, tourism, and housing. That is correct. Yes. Health care, tourism, and housing. Now, I want us to begin on the topic of tourism, Desil. I know you are a tourism is it safe for me to say tourism is near and dear to your heart?
Well, it's the career field I've chosen to pursue, so yes, that would be safe to say that.
Awesome. So we're gonna begin in that field. We'll be looking at some of the plans and initiatives that the administration intends to pursue for the fiscal year 2023, the overall allocation for that ministry, and we'll try to do let me state, however, I don't have all of the numbers for last year, but we'll try our best to do a more of a comparison to see what was done last year, some of the programs last year, and generally tourism on Nevis. Desil, can I get your take firstly on the budget as a whole, and did anything jump out at you when the administration was talking about tourism specifically?
Yes, the budget on a whole, it seems as if, it's just, I think it's an increase basically overall from the previous year. Usually I try to follow the budgets that are presented from, well, I've started to basically from each of the different parliaments every year. This one, $261.6 million allocated, expected revenue or recurring revenue, 146.5 million expected. And these are just estimates. They were expecting to get $66 million from CBI funding and loans from the Bank of Nevis, existing grants, and Social Security round out, what makes up the total amount that would be expended. Based on the information that the premier gave us, there will be a $49 million deficit this year, based on his figures. um, well, based on his figures from recurrent spending. So it's really interesting to see that we've had deficit budgets being presented for the past 3 years, maybe even more, if my memory serves me correctly. And each time, also, the budget allocations have never really added up to the full, well, basically a full 100% of the budget. For tourism, I know this year there was $9.6 million allocated to tourism. I think it does signal an increase, if my memory serves me correctly, from the last amount that was put out for tourism. I can look up that quickly, but I need a little bit of time on that. And what the premier said, that this monies were going to be used to reposition the tourism sector. And based on what he said last year, it was the same thing. The monies are going to be used to reposition the tourism sector, which, we've had COVID and all of those things happening, which put a damper on tourism globally. So we have to reinvent ourselves to kind of move forward in this post-COVID era. A lot of places have bounced back really well. I believe St. Kitts and Nevis has bounced back pretty well from COVID. I can speak specifically to the cruise sector. We've seen a huge increase in ship calls and stuff like that, especially on the St. Kitts end, which really deals with the major cruise industry passengers. We've seen increases in terms of overnight stays as well, but we've had different struggles, especially in the overnight sector, which the federal minister did outline, because we want to get but based on many and most tourism statistics that you find the overnight the person who stays longer in the country spends more money than the person who just comes in for a day or so through cruise tourism. So it'd be interesting to see what plans or what repositioning plans actually comes through from the Ministry of Tourism. I know one thing that I saw that happened very recently was the launch of the Cape Air return to Nevis. I think the plane brings a max of 8 persons daily on flights from St. Thomas. So that'll be something interesting. You can get a connection from the US to St. Thomas, and then from St. Thomas to directly into Nevis. And I think that's something that some people would be really interested in terms of, spending some time here or having different routes in order to get here, aside from the usual, American into St. Kitts, having to take the boat, whatever. I think that'll serve really a lot more of our local people per se, and regionally as well. It gives Nevis some better access. So that's something to look forward to, and hopefully the service is utilized to its capacity. I didn't hear any mention of, well, I might be wrong, of major hotel increases on the island. I know that these things happen kind of off the scene and then things start to happen, or we get promises that a hotel is coming or something is coming and whatever, and nothing shows up. So maybe there's a cautious way on that. The Vance Amory International Airport expansion, it hasn't started yet. It's a long-term objective, and negotiations are still on board, but that's something to look forward to as well. Maybe not this year, but in the long term for Nevis, because if we can get a better airport facility here, we can see increased traffic coming directly into the country, which would be a boon for tourism. So there's some things to look forward to, but we have to, err on the side of caution, hopefully, and see what the administration does.
All right, thank you so much for that, Disil. Mr. Daniel, you've been able to join us. Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
All right, great. Okay, so as I was saying, for the discussion for today, we want to look at 3 different areas in the budget address presented this week. We want to look at tourism, healthcare, and housing. So far, we've opened the conversation on the area of tourism, and I wanted to get your feedback on your view on the overall budget presentation, and specifically tourism. Has anything new jumped out at you? I know you served as a minister of tourism, I believe.
No,
you were not minister. Okay, but you were right, but you were a senior minister in.
I was minister of health, yes, and the minister of health, and of course, you're very directly involved with all the major developments. Then, so I'm quite familiar. The critical issue, Devon, is that we have to bear in mind that we have
Mr. Daniel,
a budget.
Before you continue, Mr. Daniel,
a budget. Yes.
Yeah, before you continue,
Yes.
we're having some
I'm
difficulties.
hearing you.
Yeah, we're having some difficulties hearing you clearly. And I assume that some listeners are having difficulties hearing you clearly. So what we'll do, we'll take a short break to acknowledge our sponsors. We'll try to work out the connectivity issues, and we'll be back.
I am hearing you.
Yeah, we're hearing you here in the studio, but it is not as loud as we wanted it to be. So we'll work that out quickly, and we'll come back in about a minute or so. All right? Okay. Let's take this quick break, and we will be right back. We're gonna try to sort out the connectivity issues. People make the world go.
Hello.
Gajin,
What's up, girl? Talk to me.
you know I'm working hard on being even more active, right? So we're going to the TDC Home and Building Depot to get a blender, weights, a yoga mat, and a bike for Clive too.
You serious? Something keep in there?
Yes, girl, all month long. Shop in store, get 20% in savings on health and wellness products like blenders, juicers, air fryers, waist trainers, and more.
Girl, Betty, you're joking.
I don't have time for jokes. Get yourself sorted because in February we're staying active with TDC HBD.
Yes, girl.
Girl. Terms and conditions apply. See store for details.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go round. Welcome back to Inside the News right here on WinFM 98.9. So, as we were saying, we were having some connectivity issues, but we've since sorted that out. Dissel, are you still with us? Are you hearing me clearly?
Yes, I'm hearing you loud and clear. I'm right here.
All right, awesome. Okay, welcome back to the program. Mr. Daniel, you may continue where you left off from. The question was your feedback basically over for the overall budget presented this week, and has anything jumped out new at you with regards to the area or the sector of tourism?
Major policy. It is the most significant policy coming from a government. It's a major fiscal policy, and so it speaks to your revenue generating capacity or your revenue generating intentions, because you cannot continue to have deficit budgets all the time. And what you really want to say to the public is that these things will happen in the next fiscal year. I haven't seen them, but of course, these are repetitive things from budgets before. And so this reminds me of hearing the same things over and over again. It is one thing, Devon, to be saying that you want to, it is one thing to be saying, it is one thing to be saying that you want to improve hotels and increase the stay over visitors and so on, but what is it you're going to do? The fundamental problem is that, for me, is that a budget has to be data driven. Before you can begin to say that you want to have an increase in this, whether increase in cruise passengers or stay over visitors and so on, what is the present situation? I didn't get that, because you see, without careful attention to the data, you are going to be hitting and missing. Okay? Now you have since the establishment of the Four Seasons Hotel, we have had no major plans since that. And there comes a time when we have to actually decide whether we are going to promote the tourism or we are not going to do it. But the data is absolutely necessary to guide the decision making. Decisions have to be made on data. So I didn't see anything jumping out. I've heard a rehash of all the Aman and the One and Only and all the various hotels. Those wear you out after a while, because it's about time you see something delivered. So in terms of the tourism plan, what are you going to do? Are you going to be modernizing the waterfront in Charleston so you have a boardwalk? Or are you into final discussions with a major developer so that we could have a hotel with the same kind of impact like the Four Seasons? I am just troubled that we opened the Four Seasons in 1991. And since that, we haven't opened any major. I mean, we've had the Paradiso and a few others, but you need something big, and all of the efforts so far need to come to that realization. Also, if you're going to do tourism, is it that you're going to continue with the same traditional markets, or you're going to expand markets in the Middle East or Southeast Asia, wherever? Are you going to develop new markets, and what these new markets, what are you hoping to achieve? I didn't see that. So that's from the tourism point of view. You know, the budget must tell you, and it must offer some hope to the citizens who will say, okay, citizens and residents who will say, okay, we are looking forward to this happening at the end of the year. So I didn't see anything jump out at me. In relation to, you said you are looking at health, is it?
Yes, but we'll get to that very shortly. We want to go through tourism as quickly as we possibly can.
The other thing is if you're going to look at the economy, you have the whole of the southern side of Nevis. I saw in the last budget you allocated $500,000 for a study on the road. What is the status now? Has the study been done? When you do this study, are you going to put one or two hotels over there? What is it? Is that connected tourism, and how is it connected? So I see something about roads in the budget. What are the roads for Devon? Are they leading to development? Are they going, yeah, well, of course, those are operational things in terms of maintaining and maintenance and repair of roads. But when you are speaking to the development of roads, you want to have the concept that the road to development is the development of roads, as we used to say in the NRP. So we don't just put some roads someplace. The roads connect to a hotel someplace, opening up of some major plant or something. You see? So until you can concretize those things, we are not seeing the kind of movement that you want to see in tourism.
All right. So it was noted in the budget presentation by the premier. In his opening, he mentioned that he spoke to cruise tourism. He said that we have seen the return of cruise and yacht tourism with 47 cruise calls, and that is expected to bring just under about 20,000 visitors to Nevis. He also mentioned that they have seen a large increases in the number of cruise and other visitors who arrived in St. Kitts and chose to journey to Nevis to experience hospitality. The Premier also made mention of the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, and he gave some figures as it relates to the number of visitors that park has seen since it opened. It says, during its first year of operation, the park welcomed approximately 40,000 visitors and received bookings for more than 200 events. And so we're seeing with these activities, they have been able to contribute to the economy. Disil, as you mentioned earlier, you work in the field of tourism. What is your take or your response to the apparent increase in cruise calls, and then with the addition, the Malcolm Gishard Recreational Park, that added activity to the country?
Well, Devon, the cruise industry in Nevis is in I don't think it's in a place where you can even call it a cruise industry. And I say this because the Premier speaks about the arrivals and the number of ships that we're getting on one hand, but on the other hand, he says that cruise isn't our focus. So I don't think they generally care how many ships come to Nevis at any point in time in terms of cruise tourism. The ships are sporadic. If we are relying on cruise tourism as a country, I mean, I've seen and I've heard the Premier speak about tourism being our major industry, but at the same time, we don't really pay much attention to it. And I say that because aside from Four Seasons, like Mr. Daniel said, we don't have any other, major hotel infrastructure anywhere. You spoke towards the roads and everything. I think, well, with tourism, one of the things that usually happens is the development of infrastructure, and roads are a big part of that. The road project that is ongoing, I think it goes up until the what you call it again, the Mount Nevis Hotel. And one of the reasons why the Premier said that it didn't expand further was because of the development that is expected to happen at the Vance Amory International Airport. So they didn't want to create a road that might then have to be, taken back up. So there is a little bit of thought, there's some thought put to that. I appreciate that. But at the same time, we look at the Malcolm Gishard Park as well. In the first phase of the park, the roads that that are closest to the park, in the park proximity, they were repaired. So basically right in front of the park and leading down to the end of the park on Penny's Beach. And I love the park. I believe it's a great addition to the tourism product in Nevis. But at the same time, behind the park are all of the local vendors on the beach. There's Lime Beach Bar, there's Sunshines, which is, what Nevis's most famous, one of Nevis's most famous tourism attractions. and various other spots on the beach. And the road work there is terrible. The phase 2 of the Malcolm Gishard Park should create some parking and also some different other attractions down at Penny's Beach to kind of modernize the area. And the premier spoke to it. He said that the projected time of that is 16 months. I think they have like $4 million, in the range of $4 million budgeted towards it. And it started around last November, because it's basically in the same area as I work. And we saw a little bit of activity, and then that halted for about 3 months there. So I think it's incorrect to go and tell the public that this thing is going to take 16 months again, now in February, when you've had a lull in activity for 3. How do we compensate for that loss in time in terms of development? And what other expectations are we going to see, or what are other challenges that might happen? Because as operators in the industry, it's hard to operate in a place where every 5 meters you move, there's a pothole, and this is the place that most of the tourism activity happens. So I think, as Mr. Daniels said, there is no real in-depth kind of look into tourism and understanding about tourism products and stuff like that. Because if there was, I think there would be, greater budget allocations actually made towards tourism. Looking back on the past 3 years in terms of tourism, the allocations have never passed over 4% for this industry, and it's supposedly our major industry. You haven't had more than $9 million basically put towards tourism. So are we really serious when we are talking about that? And what are the interconnections in terms of tourism? What are we doing in terms of putting money towards developing human capital? Are we training our taxi drivers? Are we providing more grants or loans to assist persons to get into the tourism industry? Because if we're gonna develop the tourism industry and we expect more people to come, whether it be overnight visitors, whether it be one-day passengers, cruise passengers, we need infrastructure, not just roads, but we need people to deal with them. I can tell you sometimes, Devon, it's a frustration to get taxi drivers available for all of the traffic that comes over from the company that I work with to Nevis. It's trouble, because they have a specific size of vehicle, and that can't really work for the number of persons that travel over to St. Kitts, to Nevis on whichever date is. So are we really making that concerted effort to develop tourism if we're not, really putting more than saying that we are restructuring? Restructuring is just a broad term, and as Mr. Daniels said, it's being rehashed from budget to budget to budget. It's the same thing that keeps being said. So apparently I really don't think there is a real plan behind it. I mean, I can say there are some small movements, but we have to make a concerted effort. We have to put more money into tourism if we're really serious about developing this project.
All right, thank you so much for that, Dissel. It is 11:36 here in the studios of 1FM 98.9. Guys, we have to take a quick break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we will continue the conversation right here on 1FM 98.9. Let's take this break, and we will be right back. Stick and stay. People make the world go.
If you need protection, you need one who you can trust to secure your investment. You need one who'll do you just. TDC Insurance, you're the one that you can trust. TDC Insurance, you're always safe with us. TDC Insurance is your go-to insurance company for all your insurance needs. We take pride in offering you the best solutions and ensuring our customers are fully satisfied. TDC Insurance, we take good care of you, guaranteeing you peace of mind. You're always safe with us.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Welcome back to Inside the News here on WinFM 98.9 for Saturday, February 25th, 2023. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. For those of you who are just joining the program, we have on the panel Nivision politician Hensley Daniel, as well as a social commentator Decil Hamilton. We are on the topic of the 2023 budget address and estimates of the Nevis Island administration. They were presented this week. For those of you who may not be aware, the budget was officially passed this week in the Nevis Island Assembly, and it is set in the region of $261 million. For this program, we will be looking at tourism, healthcare, and housing. We'll try to come back next week or in the future to touch on different areas of the budget presentation. It is about 11:40. Remember, we break at 12 for the headline news, and when we come back, we'll continue the conversation. Mr. Daniel, are you still with us?
Yes.
All right. Do you wanted to make any insertion there?
No, well, I just wanted to make a comparison with St. Kitts in that we, in 1991 in Nevis, were the first of the two islands to bring the international brand to St. Kitts and Nevis, coming, of course, with the Four Seasons, the 5-star property, and and the local people, the employees, they are the ones who made the hotel great, because there was the whole development and the training and all the other exposure to the international visitors and so on made it great. So since Four Seasons, we have had in St. Kitts the Marriott, we have had the Park Hyatt, we've had Kittitian Hill, we've had the Koi Resort, three of which are international brands and so on. And so just talking about the things in Nevis, that's not enough. Government and the development of industries is serious hard work. For instance, they still made a point about training and about the whole matter of preparing people to deal with this. And if you look at the IMF report for St. Kitts and Nevis, published on October 28, 2021, it says there is need to strengthen human resource capacity by upgrading skills to focus training programs. It goes on to say that compared to Europe and America, human capital levels in St. Kitts and Nevis is very low. The political leader of the NRP, Dr. Janice Daniel, had made similar comments in addressing the budget in Nevis. And all I'm saying is that you can't expect to develop an industry without showing, as the Sil was saying, continuous training, but you really have to get to the point where you get another brand, international brand in Nevis. And without that, you've been talking around, as I said, all these other things. It is important to be able to address that. And I believe the people of Nevis by now expected the government, been in power for many of the years since 1991, the last 10 for sure. I mean, it can't take that long to get an international brand if you are serious and if you are prepared to do the work. And so there is no doubt, Devon, that the establishment of the Four Seasons Hotel led to improvement in the other hotels, like the Nisbets Plantation, Montpelier, and so on. And with their dining around program, Golden Rock and Hermitage, all the others, lifted their standards. So it's that kind of thing you're talking about, where another international brand enables the other hotels, the smaller properties, to rise to the level. And so you have something good going on. People, the hotels, they dine around. And as a result, you have some very good restaurants and so on and so on. That is the kind of thing you want to fire the tourism effort. But they still also made the point about the allocation of resources. It's easy to tell if you're serious. Look at the amount of money that you spend, and you will tell you whether you are taking it seriously or not.
All right, guys, we want to jump quickly into healthcare and look at some of the plans and initiatives that were announced by the premier. Now, when we look at healthcare, the first thing when I talk about healthcare, the first thing that came to my mind was the expansion of the Alexandra Hospital. The Alexandra Hospital, there is an expansion project going on there. And so we know that, according to the premier, $19 million was allocated for that project. We were listening to the budget presentation where it was noted that out of that figure, $8 million had been dispersed. However, I since saw a clip that suggests that that number was inaccurate. The premier came and said that number was inaccurate, as well as the $14 million announced by the former health minister in December of 2021. So they are working on getting the actual figure of how much of the $19 million has been dispersed. I think that is a bit concerning, to say the least.
No, Devon. No. And to the citizens, I really think the government is thinking that the people in are foolish. Now, you've been building a hospital for 5 years, and you're telling me that after 5 years you're trying to establish the amount of money in the hospital. We have been told about $19 million. Then it's been done badly, so you have to redo it. And now we hear that how much money? $12 million is allocated.
12 million.
12 million. Now, the expansion of the hotel has been a major failure. And really, I didn't even expect the government to mention that in the budget, because that the more you mention that, the more angry the citizens and residents should get. You're taking up public money, and 5 years after the hotel, it takes 5 years to do an extension of a hospital.
Well, it was,
come on.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was noted here in the budget, Mr. Daniel, that yes, so the $12 million has been allocated, and it says to finance the works expected to be completed in this fiscal year. So it is expected that the hospital will be completed this year.
I mean, all right. Only the people with single-digit intelligence would believe that. All right, that is for the people with single-digit intelligence. That's not for people who understand and know what's going on. And maybe those are the people the premier is speaking to when he says that. The facility at health, after 5 years, first, we understand that it's $19 million. Now we are hearing it's $8 million. And I mean, all we need to be able to do is tell the truth to the public. Remember, it's public money, and the money must be properly accounted for. The expansion of the hospital has caused everybody in Nevis to doubt the capacity of the government to deliver. Nobody believes that, Devon, that it will be done at the end of the year. It cannot be done during the end of the year. Well, if it's done, it's done to be able to suit the very basic levels of service, or no service at all. It can't be done. Rational people who know what they are doing. The problem is, Devon, from the start, medical facilities are to be engineered and done by architects and engineers who specialize in building medical facilities. You don't take an architect who is accustomed to build houses or put on drop shed and extensions of private homes and say, come and build a hospital, build an extension of a hospital, because that has all sorts of implications. I happen to be I was in El Salvador a few years ago, looking at the development of a 100-bed hospital. And you know who the first people were at the meetings there were? The engineers and the architects. And they only do that. They only build facilities, medical facilities. So that's a fundamental problem from the start. Then, so there's a fundamental problem with design. When you're building these things, remember your diagnostic equipment have to be properly located and all these things. It's not a joke business. And if the government doesn't know what it is doing, it must simply set aside because it doesn't know what it is doing. And to mention this in the budget, it would have been better if it was left out. Now, on the larger question of health level, the government speaks to health in the budget, but in a way it doesn't offer us any hope for sick people. Any budget which speaks to health must bring us the data. For instance, what is it that is making people sick in Nevis? What is it that is killing people in Nevis? So the data tells us that diabetes, hypertension, that complications resulting from diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and stroke are the major causes of death. Now, where in the budget does the government say it is going to address these? Where in the budget is the prevention program to prevent the incidence of these? There is the whole question of cancer. I didn't hear these spelled out in the budget, and these are the things that are hurting the society. Certainly when I was in government, the data tells me then that the number of the new cases for cancer in Nevis was 21. New cases of cancer in Nevis per year. If 21 new cases of cancer are happening in Nevis in a population of 15,000 people at most, then that is a crisis level. But this is not addressed in the budget. So what are we supposed to do? Just go along and then more people come down with cancer and then we bury them, or we try and fry as much chicken as possible to help them to raise money. What I'm saying is that when you are addressing health, you need the data. How many people are dying, are sick from diabetes? What's the age range? And then you are able to determine how you have to plan. How much money are we spending on medication? How much money are we spending on specialized treatment, or what you like to say, treatment at the tertiary level? What is it that you're doing? Put all this information before the people, and then you develop a prevention program which speaks to changing consumption patterns, which speaks to treatment, care, and support. So a health care program must include prevention, treatment, care, and support. For instance, the whole question of the non-communicable diseases. It is costing all of the countries in the Caribbean somewhere in the region of 3 to 5% of their GDP. How much of Nevis GDP is consumed by the NCDs? How many amputations we have had at arm level as a result of diabetes? People have to have this information before them. And I'm saying that the information is presented by the health planner, but you keep this information out of the public domain because you don't want the public to know the state of play in health. So you have a healthcare system that needs to be driven by data which addresses, as I said, prevention. So what are we going to do? How does a sick country, in relation to what Disil was saying, can provide the kind of services for tourism, Devon? We have to have a robust, healthy population to deliver the services, whether they're in tourism, agriculture, or what have you. So health is critical to ensuring that you deliver on all the other things. So the government has to show people what is it doing with health. Is it changing is it working on changing the dietary patterns so that people consume more fruits and vegetables, less carbohydrates, drink more water, less food? And from a very radical position, Is it intending to raise the taxes on bad food and lower the taxes on good food? All of these are imaginative things you have to address if you are going to deal with the question of healthcare. There's the whole question of dental care. What's happening with our children? Is tooth decay increasing? We don't hear that. But the public needs to know so that the parents of the children could know, so that they address these matters. You can't just hide the data. All of this information must be made from it must be presented so that the data drives policy. Okay? So, and finally, are you going to continue to have everybody trying to raise fried chicken and Johnny cake in order to be able to pay for healthcare? Or you're going to work with the federal government to advance the National Health Service where everybody pays and everybody is covered, and you're going to ask the federal government to get some of the CBI money to bankroll to bankroll the National Health Service. What I'm saying is that's what the people need to hear now, because these complications from the diabetes, hypertension, stroke, cancers, and so on, these are the things that have people in the hospitals. These are the things that are causing high cost of healthcare. And you have to look at the time lost from work, from all of these diseases. But there is no thorough analysis of the status of health. So you present a budget and say you're going to finish the hospital. And what else you're going to do in health? What else they say they're going to do in health, Devon?
But not to cut you off, Mr. Daniel, right? I was looking at the presentation by the Premier, and as you spoke to people having to, we know there's a situation with health insurance, and not many people can foot the bill when it comes around to paying for their health. We oftentimes hear of people having to do fundraisers, GoFundMe, the list goes on. Now, the Premier noted in the budget address that he said, we are aware that health care related costs are escalating, making access to the highest level of health care especially difficult for those who are uninsured. He said that in this regard, pursuing the National Health Insurance Scheme is of paramount importance. We note the delays associated with the introduction of this scheme, but we remain committed to working closely with the federal government to pursue the introduction of this initiative to improve the delivery and affordability of healthcare. Mr. Daniel, before you continue, I think Dissel wanted to make a point. Dissel?
I want to agree with Mr. Daniel on basically everything that he said, firstly, and especially go back to the point of data. We're in the 2023. Data is everything. I want to hear coming from not just the NIA, but also the federal government, not just talking, but putting budgetary measures in place to implement a health information system inside of the Federation. Because it's all nice and well to say we're going to have national health care, but we're going to need a place to get the data of what's going on, to store the data of the persons who are going to come onto the system and to know what is affecting them. You can't just saying that how our governments seem to work or seem to think that the peoples of the nation's brain work is just that we just say nice things and everybody's going to jump up and say, yay. It's more than that. It takes hard work, and it's unfortunate that every single budget debate that comes around, especially in the NIA, there's no real thought or emphasis put into it. I was looking back at the past 3 years of budgets being presented, and each and every single year, again, the budget allocations have yet to add up to 100%, and that is crazy. If you're serious about healthcare, if you're serious about anything, how are you not looking at the dollars and cents and making sure that things are being calculated correctly? That's why they can go into Parliament 2 days ago and have to come back and tell the nation that we're doing an investigation to find out how much money was really spent on the hospital, because they have no clue. everything is copy and paste. They just let things pass by their desk and sign. There is no real effort, no real care put into the budget presentations for the people of Nevis. And it's unfortunate. And we keep rewarding this government by letting them constantly come back and take advantage of our intelligence and tell us all the foolishness that they're telling us. All they're doing is just increasing figures. Those figures could be based on the increase in salaries that was passed in the last year, because a 5% increase or something like that, because the government is one of the major employers in the country. So while we feel like there is more money being allocated, technically there isn't. Looking back at the tourism allocations, there was this one time that I really tried to do just an estimation in terms of the mathematics going into the figures. And if you look at it, all they were saying is that, okay, basically we have 30 staff in tourism and our budget is to pay those 30 staff. There was nothing being put forward to say that this is really, monies allocated to this or that. And we have to, as a people, take our governments to task and remind them that we're not fools. We want to hear real plans going forward into the different sectors, especially health, because without good health, we can't do anything. As Mr. Daniel said, health is wealth, and we have to be very serious about it. And that is why I really believe and I strongly support the health information systems and basically a statistical overhaul in everything across the country be done, because unless we have the data telling us what is happening across the nation, we can't make right decisions. We'll just have a lot of convoluted ideas just floating around. It's just a brainstorm bubble. Nothing is interconnected, and there's no real plan, no real concrete plan to make something happen for us.
All right. Mr. Daniel, your take on the government pursuing the National Health Insurance Scheme?
Yvonne?
Yes, your take on the government pursuing the National Health Insurance Scheme.
Well, that is absolutely necessary. As I said, we had already, while we were in government, and we left government 10 years ago, we had already done the preliminary work and had already agreed on a particular premium. We had somebody from Lloyd's of London advise us on the premiums and so on, do some actuarial work. So what we were going to do is to put all the people in Nevis. That could have been done like when you do a company. There are some companies that have a lot more employees than the population of Nevis. So it's like providing an insurance for the entire island. And we had reached that stage. We actually passed that in the cabinet already, because we recognize, Devon, that if you take up, I have said it repeatedly, you take all the chicken and in Nevis and all the supermarkets and you fry them and you sell them, you probably would get enough to spend a night at a hospital in the US where you really need urgent care. So what we say is that the government makes via the CBI lots of money, bankroll the health services sector with $100 million to ensure that we can go off to take care of all the expenses in the early stages. I think in Mr. Hamilton, the former Minister of Health, Eugene Hamilton, he had done quite a bit of work. The University of the West Indies was involved. So the thing is just about ready to deliver. Part of the problem with our Nevis politicians in the CCM, they don't really believe that people should get health care. They really believe that people should be left there to suffer. All that flowery language in the budget is foolishness. What they need to say, what specifically they will do. So how much you will do, who are the people you are going to engage with, what are the levels of assistance you want. Britain has a national health service for 70 years. In Canada, it's done by provinces. What is so difficult to do this, Devon, when all of us, do you not know people, Devon, who couldn't afford the health care and subsequently died? Mm-hmm. Do you not know people young as you are?
Right.
And do you not know people who are struggling to provide health care? And so if you are sufficiently interested in the people you will get it done. There is no excuse now. There is enough work from the University of the West Indies, and as I said, all the preliminary work done. There is work done by us in the previous administration. So it is urgent. And if the society cannot deliver this, well, we could all remember the shortest verse in the Bible.
Jesus wept.
You said it. You said it. You said it.
All right, guys, we are actually at the top of the hour. It is 12 o'clock here in the studios of WinFM 98.9. So we'll have to take a break for the headline news. The second hour of this program commences around about 12:30. Let me say thank you so much for joining us for the first hour, Mr. Daniel. Thank you so much, Tessa, for joining us for the first hour. Thank you to the listeners and those of you who have joined us online. For those of you who may have tuned in late, we have Hensley Daniel and Desil Hamilton joining me today to discuss the 2023 budget address and estimates of the Nevis Island administration. We'll take this break for the headline news. Stick and stay. We will be right back.
You found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
We now bring you the headline news. The headline news is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, the ICDF Taiwan Technical Mission, and NHC.
When it comes to the important things in life, your health, your education, your choice of a life partner, and of course your insurance provider, only the best will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
The Taiwan Technical Mission, in collaboration with the Department of Environment, continues to seek the partnership of the public in this recycling initiative. Collect and bring your plastic bottles, metal and aluminum cans at any of our collection points in St. Kitts and Nevis. In St. Kitts, visit us at Buckley's across the road from Best Buy supermarket, in Dieppe Bay on the lawn westward of the football playing field, and in the vicinity of Connery Roundabout. In Nevis, the collection points are Old Artisan Village, Big Six, Delta Petroleum, and X-Petrol. Do visit our Facebook and Instagram pages called Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis and Department of Environment, St. Kitts, for more information on the collection schedule for these recycling points. In St. Kitts, you can call the Department of Environment at 466-8535, and for Nevis, call Nevis Solid Waste Management at 869-469-1762. Let's recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis as we work towards establishing a more friendly place.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
With over a century of perfection behind the Mackeson name, a smooth blend with perfect balance and richness, it's no wonder Mackeson Triple Stout has a legacy of perfection. Enjoy the world over. Introducing our new look with the same great taste. Mackeson. All hail the king.
Please drink responsibly.
NHC is helping you to pay less in 2023. Having difficulties keeping up to date with your mortgage? Make an appointment to speak with your account manager today and learn how you can pay less. Our refinancing program will give you the opportunity to pay as low as $300 a month. Call us 466-4701 or visit our office at East Park Range. Pay less. Worry less with NHC refinancing program that's designed with you in mind. Offer valid from February 1st to June 30th.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
With the Win Headline News, I am Kevon Brown. Making the headlines, Kimber Watley sentenced to 45 years in prison. Health is Wealth, ECCB's 7th Growth and Resilience Dialogue set for April 25th to 26th. 4 Vincentian activists granted bail after being arrested for protesting outside of Parliament, and British Virgin Islands minister joining minority opposition to contest upcoming elections in the territory. Internationally, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he plans to meet China's leader Xi Jinping to discuss Beijing's proposals on ending the war in Ukraine. Now, the details. Kimber Watley was sentenced to 45 years in prison for the murder of Cassim Buchanan. On December 31st, 2019, the police charged Watley with the murder of Buchanan. The offense was committed on August 20th, 2018, in Buchanan's home in an alley connecting Nevis Street and College Street, Gut. Watley, 37 of St. Paul's, was found guilty of the murder of Cassim Buchanan on October 19th, 2022. His Lordship Justice Ian Morley handed down the sentencing at the High Court at the Police Training School. Health and its importance to the sustainable development of a country will be the main focus for the 7th Annual Growth and Resilience Dialogue. According to Sybil Welsh, Senior Project Specialist at the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank, the dialogue will be held on April 25th to 26th, 2023, focusing on 3 health topics.
This year we're honing in on healthcare under the theme An Appropriate and Sustainable Model for Healthcare in the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, OECS, focusing on agile infrastructure, traditional medicine, and medicinal cannabis. And these topics are, these areas that we are covering under healthcare is really important. You know, we hear the old adage, health is wealth, but it really is. Health impacts every aspect of all our lives, of our productive sectors. Think about it. If you need to be productive, you need to be healthy. There's also the fiscal issue, because governments are the ones who are financing a significant amount of healthcare costs. And so one wants to look not only at the curative aspect of it, but the preventative aspect of it. How can we mitigate? And so we have also to look at the technology aspect as we're talking about cost. How can technology make us more agile, more able to move with the change of the times? And we know that Change is the only constant right now.
The Growth and Resilience Dialogue is timely as St. Kitts and Nevis and other islands such as St. Vincent and the Grenadines and Antigua and Barbuda seek to develop a medical cannabis industry. Also in St. Kitts and Nevis, the government has informed of its plan to digitize the health system and improve the whole sector with new and modern technology and specialists. Welsh suggested that regular people can benefit greatly from the discussion through knowledge sharing and transformation that will take place in the health sector.
For one, we're discussing issues that we would want those who have the power to address, to see policies, processes, systems that can be modified, improved, enhanced, as a result of the issues tabled at this discussion. And so we are, as constituents of the region, we benefit when those changes come about. And change comes about through discourse, through advocacy, and through information gathering. And that really is the crux of what we're doing. We also have practitioners in the field that will talk about their history, their knowledge, their expertise that will lend to transformation going across the 8 member countries of the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union, the wider OECS, and the wider CARICOM.
Welsh is hopeful that shared knowledge and expertise will help member countries to collaborate on the way forward. In regional news, 4 Vincentian activists granted bail after being arrested for protesting outside of Parliament, and British Virgin Islands minister joining minority opposition to contest upcoming elections in the territory. Those reports and more from Carib Update.
4 St. Vincent and the Grenadines opposition activists who were arrested by police outside of the St. Vincent Parliament on Thursday were granted bail when they were brought to the court on Friday. Luzette King, a retired nurse, her niece, Adriana King, a 42-year-old teacher on suspension, Robert Patches Knight King, a Calypsonian, and John Mofford, who were arrested outside the Parliament building in Kingstown on Thursday. Police hauled them into detention after they stood outside of Parliament holding placards. Their lawyer, Kay Backus, told journalist Kenton Chance on Friday that the 4 had broken no rule.
Well, they were lawfully protested individually. It was not a public meeting, and clearly the police realized that they were all charged separately. It was not a public meeting. They were individually protested, as every Vincentian has the right to do. They were speaking about the conditions in St. Vincent, especially the NIS situation, which is something that should affect and interest every Vincentian. And the police thought that they should not be there because Parliament was sitting and ordered them to remove.
She said that the entire society should be up in arms against what she says is continued political harassment of people opposed to the government.
And I'm not saying, I'm speaking to every single Vincentian. We all have a right to protest, and we also have a voice, and I think everybody should raise their voice in this matter. We cannot have them pulling our citizens in every Monday morning.
Backus said the 4 had spent a night in detention after police refused them station bail.
For offences like this, the law is quite clear. The police ought to. It's not a choice. It should not be a choice. They ought to grant bail, even if they decided to have a surety. But certainly, they should not have slept in jail last night.
She lamented the condition under which the 4 were detained.
They were kept in a cell last night that had feces on the ground. And they were ordered by the police to take off their shoes. And they had to stay in that cell all night. The females, they were supposed to go to hotels. But the last time they were there, they said that there was feces on the wall and they did not want to go there. They were not feeling well, and I asked the police to take them to the hospital. So they went to the hospital last night, both Lucette and Adriana, and apparently their pressure was so high they had to keep them there. I think that is when the police relented and let them just stay at the Kingston police station in the holding area. last night.
The four are to reappear in court on May 23. The government of St. Vincent and the Grenadines says it is bolstering security measures at its ports of entry to intercept the illicit trading in firearms. Among the measures being undertaken is the procurement of new scanners to be installed at the two main ports and the Argyle International Airport. Speaking in the House of Assembly on Thursday, Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves said the illicit trade in small arms and light weapons poses a serious threat to citizen security. In addition to the scanners at ports of entry, government will engage the services of a security expert commissioned to provide support for the further strengthening of the operational mechanism to combat the trade in illicit weapons. According to the Prime Minister, an estimated $100 million have already been allocated to the security, law, and other apparatuses of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Antigua and Barbuda's former Gender Affairs Minister Dean Jonas was arrested on Thursday evening following an altercation with police. Police reportedly turned up at his home in response to a call that he had threatened to kill the mother of one of his children. The officers were allegedly attacked by Jonas when they attempted to arrest him. He was taken to the St. John's police station, where he was reportedly charged with disorderly conduct, threatening language, resisting arrest, and battery of a police officer. Territorial at-large representatives in the British Virgin Islands, Shireen Flax Charles, has joined forces with minority party, the Progressive Virgin Islands Movement. She will not be seeking to retain her seat as a territorial at-large candidate, but rather joins the party as its political candidate for the 9th electoral district, where she will face off against her former party mate Vincent Whitley. The move comes weeks after she announced her split from the Virgin Islands Party, after noting that her views are no longer aligned with that party. Speaking at a press conference on Friday, Flax Charles said her decision to join the PVIM over the VIP was based on the courteousness and graciousness she has received from 2nd District Representative Melvin Mitch Turnbull, who is a founding member of the PVIM. The PVIM, led by Ronnie Skelton, launched its campaign on Friday for the upcoming general election, announcing that it wants to return hope, accountability, and integrity to the people of the BVI. Skelton said the PVIM currently has 7 candidates to contest the upcoming polls. Skelton said an expected merger between his party and the National Democratic Party is unlikely to happen, and said the party is expected to reveal other candidates in the coming days. Elections are constitutionally due by mid-May of this year.
We now bring you these international reports.
Ukraine's President Zelensky has said he plans to meet China's leader Xi Jinping to discuss Beijing's proposals on ending the war in Ukraine. He made the comments in a question and answer session in Kyiv to mark the first anniversary of the Russian invasion.
First of all, I am planning to meet with Xi Jinping, and I think it will be beneficial for our countries and for the world's security. Together with China, we have large trade. This is not only about war, we are countries interested in keeping our economic relationships.
One of Vladimir Putin's closest allies, President Lukashenko of Belarus, is to visit China on Tuesday as Beijing tries to present itself as a peacemaker in Ukraine. Well, joining us now is Asia Pacific editor for the BBC World Service, Michael Bristow. Michael, let's start with that news that the Belarusian leader, Alexander Lukashenko, will make a state visit to China next week. What are we to make of this? How significant is that?
Well, we simply don't know at the moment because we've just got sketchy details about this 4-day visit, which begins next Tuesday. But it's tempting always to see a series of events when they come together to suggest some motive behind it. And we certainly have seen, as you suggested there, over the last few days, China has been pushing itself as a peacemaker in the war in Ukraine. Last week, it sent its chief foreign affairs official to Moscow, who met with President Putin. Just on Friday, China came forward with this 12-point peace proposal, a series of principles which it believes should be followed in order to stop the conflict in Ukraine. Now we see Alexander Lukashenko, Vladimir Putin's closest ally, going to Beijing. So it's tempting, as I said, to see this as some kind of continuing diplomatic offensive by China to get itself involved in the war in Ukraine and perhaps to stop the fighting there.
President Lukashenko doesn't seem to be the only one going to China. The AFP news agency is reporting that President Macron of France will visit China in, and I'm quoting, early April. What's your response to that news that's just coming into us?
Well, early April is quite a long time away from now, and that news is just coming, so it's very difficult once again to assess the significance. President Macron has tried to put himself quite clearly at the heart of negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. He's spoken on a number of occasions to President Putin, so it seems in keeping with that. Having said all this, this could be, getting back to China and Alexander Lukashenko, it could be China as well trying to pass a message on to Russia, who doesn't want Belarus to be used once again as a staging point for any future offensive by Russia against Ukraine. So we already know that China has a number of concerns about the war. It certainly doesn't want it escalating. So it could be messages are going in the other direction, back to President Putin as well as to the Ukrainian president.
This is all placing China very much in the spotlight, isn't it? I mean, realistically, what could it achieve?
Not very much, really, because I think its credibility is being shot to a large extent because over the last year it's failed consistently to condemn Russia's invasion of Ukraine, and in many people's eyes, the EU, the United States, NATO, it's simply lost its credibility as an honest broker, as a neutral party. It leans towards Russia. It's supported Russia in many respects, even though as of yet it hasn't provided any weapons to Russia. So that really limits its manoeuvrability in presenting itself as a neutral party with the ability to come up with some solid conclusion or some solid way to end this conflict.
Now, at the beginning of the war, Russia's armed forces dwarfed Ukraine's military. Yet, despite that, Moscow's advances were often brought to a halt. Al Jazeera's defense editor Alex Gotopoulos looks now at how the numbers stack up on both sides.
At the start of the conflict, Russia's military was huge. Supposedly better trained, its forces massively outweighed Ukraine's military. Russia's armed forces active personnel numbered 900,000, with another 2 million in reserve. Ukraine's military was dwarfed at 196,000, with only 900,000 in reserve. Russia's colossal tank fleet numbered 2,927 tanks, with 10,000 in reserve, whilst Ukraine, pre-war, was only able to field 858. Ukraine's artillery at the start of the war numbered 1,818, while Russian artillery numbers stood at a huge 4,894. Russia has 1,391 combat-capable aircraft, outnumbering Ukraine's meager complement of 132 jets by over 10 to 1. Yet despite the disparity in huge Russian missile strikes on Ukrainian air bases, Russia was still unable to suppress Ukraine's air force and dominate the skies over Ukraine. Time and again, Russian jets were shot down, and the Ukrainian Air Force still operates today, a year after the invasion. Ukraine's navy is limited to a few coastal vessels, while Russia has its Black Sea Fleet based in Sevastopol, with its complement of 5 frigates, 6 submarines and 10 landing ships. The fleet even has its own air wing and 2 brigades of well-trained naval infantry. Even with this overwhelming advantage in numbers, Russia was unable to achieve most of its strategic goals, and in some cases, even the small advances made were repelled. Troops have been vital for both sides as losses mount after 12 months of high-intensity conflict, with some estimates as high as 100,000 casualties each.
An island off North Wales has become the first place in Europe to be made an international dark sky sanctuary. Bardsey Island joins only 16 other sites around the world to meet the strict criteria which requires areas to be exceptionally dark and remote, giving them the world's clearest night skies. Nia Series reports.
As the sun goes down, Enlli's sky comes to life, and the International Dark Sky Association agree that it's something pretty special. This is the first dark sky sanctuary in Europe. There are only 16 others worldwide, and they all have to meet strict criteria. Any outside lights have to point downwards with an orange glow rather than white or blue. Light pollution is skyrocketing according to scientists. In the last 12 years, the night sky has brightened by 10% each year.
Enlli is around 2 miles across from the Llŷn Peninsula here, and that's one reason why it is so dark there. The mountain on the island stops most of the light from the mainland, and the biggest source of light pollution comes from Dublin, which is 70 miles away across the Irish Sea.
There are some dark sky places and parks already, but what's special about this is that it's a sanctuary which is even darker. And I think it would be very beneficial for Wales if we're renowned for our dark skies.
Evidence suggests there were people living on the island, also known as Bardsey, as far back as the 6th century. What they saw at night is probably still quite similar to what we see today. Only a few people live on Enlli now, and visitors are only allowed between March and October. It's hoped that this new status will help protect as well as enhance the island.
We've got a long-term vision and commitment to having a thriving community and economy on Enlli that is respectful and protects the uniqueness of what Enlli has in terms of our natural environment, our economic heritage, our spiritual heritage, and the dark skies really kind of brings all of that together.
Enlli is certainly unique, and the aim is to celebrate its dark skies and special qualities for years to come.
You were listening to the WinFM Headline News on 98.9. Our top stories were: Kimber Watley sentenced to 45 years in prison. Health is Wealth, ECCB's 7th Growth and Resilience Dialogue set for April 25th to 26th. 4 Vincentian activists granted bail after being arrested for protesting outside of Parliament. And British Virgin Islands minister joining minority opposition to contest upcoming elections in the territory. Internationally, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has said he plans to meet China's leader Xi Jinping to discuss Beijing's proposals on ending the war in Ukraine. Thank you for listening.
That was the WinFM Headline News. The Headline News is brought to you by Caribbean Alliance, The Grange, KDP Enterprises, Carib Brewery, the ICDF Taiwan Technical Mission, and NHC.
Did you know that the Grange Healthcare Facility is the first purpose-built, non-governmental healthcare organization on St. Kitts? It's situated at Otley's, 7 miles east of Basseterre in beautifully landscaped surroundings. The Grange has a team of highly trained professionals and provides care that's rated as being comparable with UK and North American standards. The Grange offers varied accommodations to suit your individual needs, and our all-inclusive packages make the cost of care per hour the most competitive on the island. Services include convalescent care for all ages, daycare facilities for older adults, rehabilitation services, and training and continuing education for healthcare providers. For more information, call 466-5525 or 465-8020. Fax 466-8221 or email thegrangehealth@gmail.com or visit our website at www.grangehealthcarefacility.com.
NHC is helping you to pay less in 2023. Having difficulties keeping up to date with your mortgage? Make an appointment to speak with your account manager today and learn how you can pay less. Our refinancing program will give you the opportunity to pay as low as $300 a month. Call us 466-4701 or visit our office at East Park Range. Pay less. Worry less with NHC refinancing program that's designed with you in mind. Offer valid from February 1st to June 30th.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Shipping your cargo shouldn't be a hassle. It can be as easy as a single call to Amerijet International, your worldwide cargo transportation solution. We provide all the services you need to ship your goods anywhere in the world, whether your shipment is fresh, frozen, large or small, alive or hazardous. You can count on Amerijet to deliver it safe and sound. Amerijet International, by land, sea or air, we get it there. For more information, visit us online at www.amerijet.com or call us at KDP Enterprises at 466-9595.
The Taiwan Technical Mission, in collaboration with the Department of Environment, continues to seek the partnership of the public in this recycling initiative. Collect and bring your plastic bottles, metal and aluminum cans at any of our collection points in St. Kitts and Nevis. In St. Kitts, visit us at Buckley's across the road from Best Buy supermarket, in Dieppe Bay on the lawn westward of the football playing field, and in the vicinity of Connery Roundabout. In Nevis, the collection points are Old Artisan Village, Big Six, Delta Petroleum and X-Petrol. Do visit our Facebook and Instagram pages called Let's Recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis and Department of Environment, St. Kitts, for more information on the collection schedule for these recycling points. In St. Kitts, you can call the Department of Environment at 466-8535, and for Nevis, call Nevis Solid Waste Management at 869-469-1762. Let's recycle in St. Kitts and Nevis as we work towards establishing a more friendly place.
Will do. Caribbean Alliance Insurance is the only insurance company in the Eastern Caribbean with an A excellent rating. We have a robust 3-tier reinsurance strategy that protects our policyholders from multiple catastrophes, even if they occur in quick succession. We spread our risks over 18 territories, ensuring minimal impact to individual territories when a disaster strikes. We provide an excellent claims experience. Claim settlement is usually between 24 to 48 hours. Our A excellent rating means that you are more secure with us. Contact us for motor, property, marine, public liability, employer's liability, and other policies. Dalil Walwyn, people you can trust. Local agent for Caribbean Alliance Insurance. Tomorrow secured.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
People make the world go
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects or sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
Breathe easy. With the holidays just over and lots of fun spent on holiday supplies, activities and gifts, how are your finances? If your answer wasn't favorable, TDC Financial Services is here to help you breathe easy. Up to $40,000 unsecured to consolidate your loans and even get a little something in your hand. No need to worry. Visit our social media pages or call 465-6516 or 469-5430 to learn more on how you can breathe easy with TDC Financial Services Limited. Terms and conditions apply.
People make the world go
Welcome back to Inside the News right here on Win FM 98.9. It is 12:40, about 12:40 here in the studios of Win FM 98.9. You're listening to Inside the News. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. We have on the panel today Mr. Hensley Daniel, a politician, former Deputy Premier of Nevis and a Minister of Government in Nevis Island Administration. He was a former Minister of Health and Social Development, Culture, et al. We also have social commentator Desil Hamilton. Mr. Daniel, are you hearing me clearly?
Yes.
Awesome. Desil, what about you? You hearing me? Are you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
All right, guys. So we're now entering the second hour of our conversation for today. For those of you who are, just joining the program, we are on the budget address delivered in the Nevis Island Assembly this week by the Premier and the Minister of Finance, the Honorable Mark Brantley. And so far, we've been on the topic of tourism, healthcare, and we want to touch on housing as well. I think there is a lot more for us to speak as it relates to healthcare. So I took the opportunity, guys, to look at the address delivered by the Premier. He spoke to the section that lists healthcare and social protection. He mentioned in his address that as it relates to diagnostic services, last year and I'm quoting, "Last year we completed the installation and commissioning of a state-of-the-art Philips 128-slice CT scan machine at the Alexandra Hospital. This unit is now fully operational and our people are already accessing services at this unit. Our patients no longer need to travel to St. Kitts or elsewhere at considerable cost to access such services." And he expressed thanks to the Drahi Foundation for its philanthropy in donating this critical piece of equipment. Mr. Daniel, as a former Minister of Health, can you comment on this addition to our healthcare in terms of having a CT scan there?
Well, I don't know if it's up there because when they announced that it was there, I went there and it wasn't there. I hope it is there. I have to see it. I don't know. But the point is, Devon, it is in a container. All right? Now, it's in a container 5 years after you started building the hospital. So, you know, you ought to have had such an expensive and machine and modern machine housed properly in the hospital. But if it's there and people can access it, fine. But all I will say is, you see how much more money it is costing, that you have to get a container to host it, where in fact that machine, given its sensitivity, ought to have been properly installed in a unit in the hospital. But of course, Devon, what do you expect me to say? You see how politics work in Nevis. I bought a dialysis machine, $214,000 US, dropped it in Nevis in April of 2013, and it's left to rot. And then there was a song and dance that it came in a container. But you see, there's a difference. When I have to say this, I knew what I was doing, okay? Because so you didn't have to build a facility because of the urgency of the situation with persons needing dialysis care. Now you have a facility, and yet you are doing the thing that you should have done, that you're doing when you ought to have been installing it in a proper building. That being said, no problem. But the question of healthcare, Devon, must go. Yes, you have that, but you have to anchor your healthcare services on prevention. And there are 2 health centers which are closed in Nevis. The Cotton Ground Health Center is closed, and the Gingerland Health Center is closed. Those centers are supposed to act as key elements in the preventive aspect of healthcare. So you close your health centers. Well, you must expect there will be more trouble. So you have this machine. But if you are serious about healthcare, you have to address the construction of 2 new facilities in Cotton Ground and in Gingerland, because the idea of the health centers, when you read what Health for All 2000 and all the documents coming out of PAHO and WHO, the idea, Devon, is to keep people out of hospitals. How do you keep people out of hospital? By ensuring that they can go to the health centers for public education, for all the diabetic care and all those things, so they don't need to go to the hospital. But if your primary care provider, which in this case is the hospital, is bad, then you would expect people will be going to the hospital, and then you would expect them to need tertiary care. You need all kinds of sophisticated machines. prevention is anchored at the health center. When we were children, we used to go to the health center for dental care. We used to go there to drink cod liver oil. We used to go there to check on us. In a term, you went to the health center in Gingerland 2-3 times. Okay? The idea was that the nurses would check on you. Also, they came to the communities to check on the families, to check. In South Africa, arising from the AIDS situation, they developed an army of people. They have the best preventive care program in the world. That's why they were able to deal with the coronavirus pandemic, because their people were trained to reach people in the communities. That is what you're supposed to be doing. Hospitals are to be left for specialized care, but the real care for health is anchored on prevention with your public health nurses and so on. And did you see anything in the budget they want for training of nurses and that kind of thing, and to ensure that we have a continuous pool of nurses from needs and so on, so that we can address the problem right through. All of these things are what you want to see, but you can't tell me that you're interested in healthcare and you're keen to deliver healthcare when you have two major facilities, the health centers, which are supposed to drive prevention and hold people to provide specialized care. Because after you leave the hospital, you should really go to the health centers for follow-up care. That is the concept going around now. The health center in Brownhill has a public education room, has a little pharmacy. All of those are the kinds of things that a modern health center must have. So until you modernize your health centers, and you see what they're doing in Charlestown, they've left the health center in Charlestown to run down so that you're moving it to St. John's, because you're putting it in Ward's building in St. John's. So you really are not studying preventive care, because these are 3 centers now. You're not paying any attention to them. And I didn't hear them addressed in the budget. I don't know if you saw it, but I read through the budget in a few minutes because it didn't have the kind of substance that would engage you.
All right. Well, I've been able to. I was going through the section that speaks to healthcare and social protection, and the premier.
Sorry, Devon. Sorry, it can't be healthcare and healthcare must be standing alone. Healthcare is central to everything else, so you can't mix it with social protection. Social protection has to do with developing a range of social services to address social problems in the community, income support, family support, and so on, community support. That is not to be conflated with health. Health is a serious matter.
So as I was saying, Mr. Daniel, so I was reading through, and it was noted that it says here that the acute shortage and an unequal distribution of qualified health personnel are major constraints in providing universal access to health care for all. Although our complement of doctors and nurses has increased over the past years with the recruitment of professionals from Cuba and the Philippines, along with returning nationals who have completed their field of study, it says that shortages still persist. To alleviate this problem, our government has taken several initiatives to spur the interest of our citizens in pursuing careers in nursing, and for our newly graduated medical doctors to pursue further education in specialized areas such as surgery, internal medicine, anesthesiology, cardiology, gynecology. Yes, it says that these are critical care services which must be available to our people. Now, Now, as you were once a Minister of Health, Mr. Daniel, did your administration experience any shortage of nurses, and what steps did the administration take to respond to that? Are they similar to what is being done now, where the administration is trying to encourage people to enter the field? And perhaps, I did not see where this was mentioned, but perhaps, okay, it says several initiatives, but basically sponsoring people to go off to pursue studies in the field.
Well, we are the challenge, the shortage of nursing is not new. But what we did, we offered, we had of course, we had a massive program of education. So there are persons who were sponsored for nursing care. I remember going to St. Vincent to get nurses because they had a large pool of people, but the Trinidad government bought out all of them and offered them some nice packages. So what we decided to do was to recruit a number of people who did not have the matriculation requirements for nursing. But what we would do from a social development point of view was to fund them to get up to speed and then be allowed to go into the program. Of course, we left government and that never happened. The idea was to get young people, and there were quite a number of young people who were interested in nursing. But the critical thing is the incentive, Devon. You have to pay for the training. You have to ensure that all the allied help that they need with transport and so on, and some of them have families. If you are going to address the matter, you have to address the matter with money, because we need to have our nurses in our people in Nevis looking after people in Nevis. It's okay to recruit people from overseas, but that is until you finish your training program. They're not going to replace the local people. And there was that interest among quite a number of young people. I think there were 15 of them. They didn't have the matriculation requirements, but we would pay for them. And then they would be into the program. We left government and that did not. Also, the other part, which is a problem, was in the whole area of pharmacy. When I went to government, we hadn't trained a pharmacy in 33 years in Nevis. Absolute madness. So we need to have people incentivized to get access to training as EMTs and the whole gamut of services. But it stems from pumping money into healthcare, A, on prevention, and B, on the training. Because you must be able to do that if you're going to continue to recruit people.
All right. Just before I get your take, let me just refer to the summary of the total expenditure for the various ministries. When I look at the Ministry of Health and Gender Affairs, the current expenditure is set at about 32.2 million. The capital expenditure is about 17.1 million, and the total expenditure is 49.3 million. Have you guys been able to look at the estimates as yet?
Yeah, but the capital expenditure includes what, Devon? What are the capital expenditures for in health?
Okay, I'll have to go through that. I just have the actual number
12 million of that is to pour down the black hole at the hospital, the extension. So we're gonna lose 12 more million. What else is in there in terms of capital expenditure in health? Remember, these things are put in, and I am almost certain you will see these things recurring next year. Because if you are not generating the revenue on the current side so that you can hold up some money so that you can invest in the healthcare, you are simply going to repeat them like a list of what you call this. Like, it more looks like a wish list. But what the government needs to do is to say, not just list the things, but say in a concise way what is being done. So if you're going to spend $10 million or $5 million on this is what it will cost. This is what we are doing. This is what has been done before. Well, then after 5 years, you can't tell us how much money you spend on the hospital and what you spend it for. Why do you expect them to be able to account for that? How many million? $52 million?
The
49.
49. Decil, stick up in Mr. Daniel.
I agree with what Mr. Daniel has been saying, in terms of the preventative measures, rebuilding our health centers and other service centers, and also in terms of attracting human capital. But again, he gave us the amounts, the 49.4 based on what I can recall from him saying in the budget, 18.88% of the budget. I think that makes it the second highest allocation of the budget that he gave. But again, Mr. Daniel made a strong point when he said it's not just health. So we're not spending $18.88 million on health. We're spending $18.88 million on, not million, sorry, 88% of the budget, or $49 million on health, gender, and social services. So if you had to take those other two ministries out of that $49.4 million, then you would get the actual real figure that we are spending on health, which I'm sure would be a lot less. So again, health is very serious, and not even that I don't know. We can see clearly that this administration isn't serious about it. If they are so brazen in terms of bringing forward incorrect figures to the people of Nevis and showing us that they're really not paying attention to what is going on in their systems, whether they want to blame it on security breaches or what have you, we are not making the effort to ensure that healthcare here is taken seriously. And for whatever reason, I don't know. I don't know if it's because of the inequality gap that exists here. Those who can afford it are getting it. I'm sure the ministers are paid handsomely, so health doesn't really affect them much. They can always get up and fly out to wherever they want to get adequate health care. But what about the common man, the people who are actually voting for you, the people who are on the ground, who are feeling it, who don't have health insurance and stuff like that, who needs the health centers to go and get checked, who needs the hospitals to have the various things in place for them to get treatment? We need to make sure that these vulnerable people are taken care of as well. So it will be interesting to see what happens in the short term. This spoke towards, as you mentioned, Devon, attracting talent in specific fields, more specialists to the country. There are a lot of ways that we can do this, but we are generally losing people towards brain drain in St. Kitts and Nevis. It's happening all the time. There are a lot of persons in the education, when they go up into the education system, they want to be a doctor, they go off, they study to become doctors and stuff like that, and they're still there. They don't come back and see here as a place to become, to make sense of their investment. Student loans are heavy. They're not seeing the sense to come back because they're going to be working in an environment that is not up to date with the knowledge that they've gathered from out there, the technology in terms of, the different machines and stuff like that, the diagnostic equipment and everything else, the facility, like the hospital building and centers. So it is all well and nice to want to attract people here, but do we have the things that will make, persons who can give us top quality healthcare here? So we have to finish the hospital post haste, and not just post haste. We have to make sure it's a building that is really to the standards of a medical facility. I think sometime last year there was some mention of, if it's not PAHO, but it's some other regional organization that basically came in and looked at the structure that was being built for the Alexander Hospital and said that, hey, whoa, you guys slow down. We have to dial it back and do X, Y, and Z over because this won't work. So it'd be really interesting to see what happens over the years. But again, based on the monies that we're seeing allocated, I'm not too sure how serious the government is with healthcare.
As it relates to healthcare, though, I think what the majority of people on the island of Nevis, and if I can say across the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis, are looking forward to is the completion of the expansion project. I did reference the numbers that were mentioned by the current and former health ministers that were conflicting. As I said earlier, Decil, the Premier, in another, I think the day after in Parliament, he mentioned that it was because of a glitch, so some of the numbers were off, and they're trying to, they're going to investigate to find out how much they've actually spent on the hospital. That is what he said in a nutshell. So that is what people are looking forward to in terms of healthcare and the completion of the hospital. It's been, from my point of view, it's been a bumpy road in terms of the expansion project for that hospital. No clear end date in terms of the construction, different figures being thrown around, so you're not entirely sure. However, I must commend the other initiatives that the government is taking in terms of healthcare, specifically nursing. We, as Mr. Daniel mentioned, we've always had an issue when it comes to healthcare and specifically nursing. And oftentimes they have to import nurses, whether it be from the Philippines or from Cuba. And so encouraging people to enter the field is definitely important, as well as encouraging our young general practitioners to specialize in different areas. That is also important. Mr. Daniel, you wanted to add something?
Yes, just finally to say that one of the things you want to do from an evaluation point of view, remember, as a Minister of Health, is not your money. You need to be able to show the outcomes. So when you say that you are spending this money on health, what are the outcomes that you get? So for instance, I have been looking at the outcomes compared to the other OECS countries. They spend less per capita on health, but their outcomes are better in terms of their the longevity issues and the whole disease profile. So it's not even about, so you want to make sure that what you spend, you're getting some return. So you have to do some evaluation. So then when you have to say, okay, this year I spent $20 million on health. And what did it show? It showed that I still have an increase in diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and stroke and cancer, which means now I have to go back to the drawing board to see what is causing this increase and redirect the funds. That is why I'm saying that the data is critical and the outcomes. When you drive a car, when you look in the car and you check the gas gauge, doesn't the gas gauge tell you the level of fuel in the car, right?
Right.
Same approach you need with healthcare. What is the data showing? The outcomes. What outcomes are we looking for? And are the outcomes real? And can we do better? But if we don't do that, every year you will just say, well, you have to allocate money for health, so you just do it, but you don't do it with the outcomes in mind. You don't do it in terms of addressing particular concerns and so on. So that is critical. If it's your money, you could spend it as you like, Devon. But when you take the public money, you need to show the public that in the last 5 years, for instance, we have been trying to put up a hospital, but we have not delivered on the hospital. We spent X amount of money on diagnostic equipment, and this is what happened. We spent X amount of money on preventive care, and this is what happened. We are treating cancers, this is what happened. So while we spend the money, we look for the outcomes. And that is what you have to tell the citizens, to say that, look, we spent $10 million on prevention last year, and we have seen a reduction in the incidence of diabetes among persons 30 to 40 and so on. We have seen a reduction in amputation, so on, so on, so on. You understand? So you don't just take up the public money and say, I spent some money and this is that. This is the same thing goes for a matter like education. You spend the most money on education, but what are the outcomes? Half the children still leave school without any certification, without any opportunity to go on to college or to learn skills or what have you. You need to get into another mindset now. What are the results of all of this expenditure? That is why I said, Devon, and I'll close with this: the budget is a major fiscal policy. You have, before you do the new budget, you must tell us the results from the expenditure in the last budget. You follow? Mm-hmm. So you budget 2021, these were the results. So this is why budget 2022 must look this way. But the budgets, as Desil was saying earlier, you have the same thing repeated over and over again. So you're not really making any concerted effort to ensure that people get value for money. That is what I'm saying. When you speak to outcomes, you want to get value for money.
Mm-hmm. Now, if we can go into housing, we've touched healthcare and tourism. In the budget address, the Premier made mention of some figures and some of the a number of homes that they have been able to construct. He said that the Nevis Housing, during the fiscal year 2022, the Nevis Housing and Land Development Corporation built a total of 22 homes at a cost of $6 million, with a further 17 homes currently under construction, with an estimated cost to complete of approximately $5.7 million. Additionally, 4 private homes were built at a cost of about $850,000. These newly constructed homes are located in Madden's, Hamilton, Craddock Road, Prospect, and Garner's. Therefore, a total of 260 homes at an estimated cost of $62.9 million have been constructed by the Housing Corporation during the period 2013 to 2022.
Well, Devon, look at this. Make the comparison quickly. We in the NIP between 2006 and 2012 built 375 homes in Nevis. So I can't wrap my mind easily around those small numbers there. They look too small. I am already up in the 375, and Minister Hector was telling me when we were in government that the number of applications was something at that time was like 1,100 people wanted homes. We delivered 375. What the other issue is that we have to find a way again. We have money in the CBI program. The money belongs to the people of the country. The housing situation has to be addressed because when you read all the information on housing, Devon, it says 80% of the people who need a home can't buy it, can't pay for it. So there must be some way of meeting them, okay? You just can't, the families that need homes can't get a home in the private market easy, okay? They need help. So what is required is not this piecemeal thing. You need a major housing policy, which includes insurance, which includes engagement with the private sector and the public sector, and which include mobilizing some resources internationally so that we can offset the costs to the citizens. But we have a golden goose laying a lot of eggs in the CBI program. Also, what you're doing, Devon, you're not building just houses. If you take the Cherry Garden project, you will see that we are building communities. You have to build communities. So you need amenities like playing fields and other things so that you could build communities. That's what you're building. It's not just houses. And when you read the information coming out of Habitat for Humanity, you see where people are looking. I just don't think that we have been engaging enough with other stakeholders regionally and internationally to see how we could make housing a better part of the thing. What housing has become under the CCM is now being added to the part of the political pork barrel. So, if you are a system supporter, you get a house. If you're an happy supporter, crap or smoke your pipe kind of thing. That's not developing housing properly. You have to understand that A, how many people need housing? B, how many people can afford? C, how do we get them to the point where they don't have to give up, they don't have to spend their entire earnings, 80% to pay for the house, and so on. So you need, I think we started it where we decided we'll give people a home ready with all the electrical and plumbing work and so on done. So that is what is required. I don't see anybody in the government who has an understanding of housing, and I don't hear them engaging other players from an economic and social point to make housing part of a larger social good. Because if you can't afford it, it becomes a social good, and it means therefore that you need more help in being able to obtain a home.
I see what you're saying. No, Diesel, you wanted to jump in here?
Well, I think on the matter of housing, another point that we should be focusing on is basically sustainable homes. It's all well and good to have a home, but are we building homes that have the standards of the 1990s or the 1980s, or are we building homes that are set to provide for us in the long term, in the future? We look at the struggles that persons have when they do get homes. We have the high cost of electricity. We have water shortages and stuff like that in various areas. Are the homes that the government are building equipped with solar panels, to harvest solar energy and take this home off of the grid? Is it going to become an increase in cost for not just the person, but for the government itself, which is the one who's providing the electricity and the water? So I believe these are critical things that need to be included in the development of homes. We also have to look at real estate in a very special way. There are different lands that are allocated, or private lands that are being sold basically to the highest bidder with the Citizenship by Investment program. Are we ensuring that all our lands aren't just bought out, or specific housing areas aren't just bought out by foreign nationals? Well, they become nationals, foreign persons when they buy through the CBI. And they're just sitting down, not being used. What does that say for the common man who's born and raised here and wants to own a home, on the land? Will they have proper access to lands and everything to achieve, a comfortable life in terms of housing? So yeah, I think we really need to watch sustainability and make sure that we have programs outlined to provide for our people in that way in terms of housing. That is definitely something that I want to see us do going forward.
All right, thank you so much for that. So guys, it is about 50 minutes past the 1 o'clock hour. We'll take a break to give a shout out to our sponsors, and when we come back, we'll continue Inside the News right here on Win FM 98.9. Let's take this break, and we will be right back.
TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company, TDC for service, TDC for quality. TDC your company. Together we succeed, building our strong community, pressing onward to our destiny. One love, one family. Together we succeed. Let the whole world see. Yes, this is 50.
Maybe it's the way the brilliant gold liquid reflects our sunshine, or how the bright blue of its label mirrors the clear Caribbean skies overhead. Maybe it's the fresh, crisp taste of this beastly cold beer on a scorching hot day. Maybe it's even the way it brings us all together. But one thing is for sure, Carib is very much a part of who we are wherever we're from in the Caribbean. Carib, it's the way we play. Drink responsibly.
People make the world go
Welcome back to the Inside the News program right here on Win FM 98.9. I'm your host for today, Devon Cornelius. We are wrapping up just about 14 minutes left before we wrap up the discussion for today. For those of you who may have just joined the program, we have Nevision politician Hensley Daniel, a former deputy premier and senior minister in the Nevis Island administration. We also have a social commentator, Desel Hamilton, on the program with us today. We are on the topic of the budget address delivered by the Premier and Minister of Finance, the Honorable Matt Brantley. For the program today, we have looked at tourism, healthcare, and we are now on the topic of housing. Now, I note, and I think you guys may have heard of this complaint as well, where people have been protesting against the cost of the homes that are being constructed now. It is their view that the homes no longer fall within the category of affordable or low income. A low income house basically is for people who, you don't earn much, but because people need homes. As the government, you have that responsibility to ensure that they get a house with all of the amenities, Mr. Daniel Dissel, that you guys listed earlier. So you have an issue now where the homes are being constructed, but they're not as affordable as they once were. You also have to take into consideration that the cost of materials, the cost of living, the cost of labor, all of that have increased. What can the government do to subsidize or to cushion the impact on the small man? So we understand that the cost of materials and labor and all of that, it continues to rise. But how do you prevent all of that going on to the small man? So as someone, I'm earning $1,500 a month, but I want a house. How can you help me, considering that the cost of materials, the cost of labor is increasing? Dissel, I want to hear your thoughts.
Devon, I think that's a really tough social issue to handle. I believe, shelter is a fundamental human right. I think everybody would like to have a home, would want to have a home. But at the same time, as you just mentioned, in terms of inflation, that has hit the housing market as well. Cost of materials are extremely expensive. I don't know what concessions the government itself gets if it buys from either whether it be local or foreign suppliers. But I think they do. I want to believe that they do their best in terms of reducing the price on an individual, but it can't be free. I think that's just the bottom line of it. It cannot be free. I believe that citizens need to take some responsibility in terms of when they're looking forward to either becoming a home owner, rent and stuff like that, to, try and make sure that what they're looking for is within the realms of their income. Because you can't provide a depending on what the government is building right now, a 3-bedroom home for $300 a month mortgage payment. Then you have a mortgage that's lasting 60 years. That's not sustainable. So maybe we have to look into in terms of what we are building in terms of the homes, the different materials. The materials have to be the house itself has to be climate resistant, because we struggle with, hurricanes in this region. We're prone to hurricanes, and hurricanes are becoming more severe. So there are a lot of factors to balance in terms of providing a home for quote unquote low income families, especially when we have such a small minimum wage, $360 a week. If we're just going to use that as the baseline, then that person is just making maybe about $1,200 a month. And if you have to take a mortgage out of that just for one individual, then you're almost left with anything. This person has children to feed. They might have a spouse or a partner to help to subsidize their income, but it's still hard on that family. So it all depends on what social programs that can go into assisting these families. But it's an all of society approach. I think maybe there needs to be more education to persons in terms of what is available out there for them and the different options. And we have to work together in order to come to a solution that makes sense, because at the end of the day, you don't want to disadvantage anyone, but we also have to take some responsibility as members of the country and community.
All right, Mr. Daniel, your take?
Devon, you have to you have to make housing affordable to people who can't afford. That is the challenge. Make housing available to people who cannot afford housing. So you have to come up with various mixes in terms of the package that you want to offer. For instance, a single woman with 4 children and working on a minimum wage salary, say $2,000 a month. But what can she do with that? But she has to house 4 children. So you see, you have to get to a number of incentives. And as I say, I believe you have to team up with the private sector, the public sector, and also civil society groups, to see how you could get a package together. And also you may have to lengthen the time for the payments so that people don't get choked with bad payments. I mean, in our culture, you're supposed to pay for your house in short spaces of time.
Yeah, Mr.
Now, in the United States,
Mr. Daniel,
people have 30, 40 years to pay.
Hold on, Mr. Daniel, 1 second.
How much of that money?
I don't think he's hearing me. Mr. Daniel?
So they don't spend all on it.
Mr. Daniel, we're getting some disturbance from your call, wind or something like that. Yeah, be mindful of that.
Yeah, better know.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, so what I'm saying is that you just have to get more nimble, and there are not enough players. The people in accounting, the people in financing, the people in economics, the people in social services, all these people have to come together in a way where the government harnesses their ideas and puts a package together. I mean, a couple people over the Housing and Land Corporation who are appointed by the government can direct the housing policy. Come on. You know. If you notice, Devon, we had different options. We had build on your own land. We had some people who only wanted a 1-bedroom. And we had, of course, the major policy of rent to own. You imagine you rent a building. You rent a house for you and your children, or you and your family. And at the end of 10 years, the rent that you have paid goes towards payment of the house. I mean, the NRB proposed that, and that wasn't taken seriously, but several of our Caribbean countries have taken up that approach. Okay? So there are different ways in which you provide incentives, but you want people, you want to house the population. But what I find missing, Devon, is that we have not gone down to Trinidad to see how they deal with providing housing for low-income people. How have we gone to Barbados? Have we looked at what Jamaica has done? Have we gone into Mexico? I'm just calling some countries which have come up with some very good programs to help working people. So, you know, we just need to find the best mix. And that means that you have to go and study what other countries are doing. You can't stay in Nevis and feeling like you're MacGyver.
You know, as was mentioned earlier, what we need is homes that can actually pay for themselves. So, you know, climate smart homes, solar energy, you know, smart homes. So instead of you getting a house and, as you mentioned, a single mother, 4 children, 5 children working for $2,000 a month, getting a smart home or a home that can pay for itself would not just help her individually, but help the